This is Fred Richani of TSC, staying alongside the legendary Dr. Goldman, Guinness World Book of Records holder, anti-aging legend. He is a man that has done it all. We're here at the Action Martial Arts Hall of Fame weekend, the 20th anniversary in AC. Dr. Goldman, how's this weekend treating you?
Well, this is one of the events I hardwire into my schedule. Never miss it since 2012 when I ran into Alan after many years, and I'm here every year, no matter what. In fact, I was supposed to be in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Conference, and I flew back from Asia, finishing up there, to make sure I was here for this event.
That's pretty incredible. Did you know at a young age, like, I'm going to be a doctor?
Well, I wanted to be in health, but I wasn't sure about being a doctor. I'd say I originally started out, I wanted to be like the strongest kid in the world, like most kids are. They watch Superman, they want to be like a Superman. So that was the initial impetus, and that's when I started training seriously around age 12, then set my first world record age 14, and then compete on the world level for over 14 years, retired from world competition at 28, and then entered into martial arts, I would say, in my teenage years, and got my 6th-dan black belt in 1986 in Malaysia. And then I was out of martial arts for like decades, and then I ran into Alan and Chuck Zito at the International Sports Hall of Fame, which I do every year with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And we got together, and I came to this event for the first time in January of 2013, and I'm here every year, and here we are, 8 years later.
What's tougher, becoming a master in fitness and martial arts or becoming a doctor?
You know, they're both pretty challenging. I'd say probably becoming a master is a lot more fun. Medicine and watching people die and dealing with the amount of detail and trauma, it can be quite challenging.
You've been somebody that's been anti-steroids for a long time. With all that's going on these days with like MMA and UFC and USADA and how there's kind of like a gray area between what's performance enhancing and detrimental and what's not, do you feel like we're ever going to get to the point where there's kind of like a fine line drawn where people will actually have all the facts as opposed to that gray area?
Well, I mean, drugs are not bad. It's just how they're used. A hormone replacement in men when they get older is fine because you're doing proper therapeutic use. The problem is when you have younger kids, 12, 13, 14, or they're being abused at a very high level where, or it's a ban. In other words, in sport competition, the rules are the rules. But I'm not against the drugs. I don't think they're bad drugs. They're used very effectively for patients who need HRT, which we call hormone replacement. But I think one of the things that's probably the most challenging for the martial arts community is probably the rise of UFC and MMA, which is like, let's just beat the hell out of these guys, versus tradition, respect for your opponent, teaching, mentoring, which is not really taught in the UFC and in MMA. And it is taught in dojos around the world. So I think we need to merge more of that mindset so that we set a good example for the next generation. You have doctors that are working with high-level athletes all the time that it is being prescribed, maybe not legally, but it is being prescribed. It's a very difficult program. I set up dope control programs for the sport of bodybuilding back in 1986, and then work with the Olympic Committee helping to design steroid standards for the Olympic laboratories. I help with the development of the Olympic laboratories for the Australian Olympic Games, the Atlanta Olympic Games, worked with Professor Manfred Donnick, who invented steroid testing, and he mentored me over the years, so I worked with him over a period of 10 years, and then with Professor Dr. Eduardo DeRose, who was overseeing the doping control all the way up through the last 20, 25 years. It's a very challenging approach. It is no easy solve. The drugs will always be there, and especially with the big money now for professional athletes or for winners or even Olympians, it's a very challenging situation and not one that I think we will ever solve, but we just try to make as palatable as possible.
You're so well respected here, and for good reason. You've done so much positive work. Alan Goldberg with this charity, We're Kickin It, has as well. Can you just talk about how Alan and the whole approach of martial arts and personal health has helped you working with kids?
Well, I mean, I worked with kids. I was a coach. I was a wrestling coach, weightlifting coach, bodybuilding coach. So, this what they're doing with the anti-billing and kicking it are terrific. I've donated significantly to those charities. One of their spokespeople. I think they're doing a great job. I'm very supportive. I donated money again this year to them. I think they're doing very important work. Bullying is a real issue, and I think that's where martial arts really comes into play because it teaches kids discipline and respect, not to abuse the power they have. It's good having power, but it's better not to abuse it. Only use it when you absolutely have to. And I think if more kids went through conventional martial arts training, I think that a lot of these bullying issues would not happen because the insecurity and the self-esteem issues might be solved.
Well said, sir. Before we let you go, we know you got the Arnold Classic coming up. Where else can fans find you?
Well, usually in an airplane, but I will be at the Arnold Sports Festival. I host the International Sports Hall of Fame. We've got a great class this year. We got Johnny Damon, who is with the Yankees, and with Boston. We got UFC world champion Forrest Griffin, Christy Ennis, who was a Afghan trooper from the U.S. who lost her leg, and now even with one leg at 23, she's climbing all 6 peaks in the world. Leslie Visser, who is the most famous female broadcaster, sportscaster in history, who's done the Super Bowl, Final Four, NBA World Championships. We have Leslie as well. And we've really got, and then we have Archie Griffin, who is a Heisman Trophy winner, all-pro athlete, multiple years. So we really got a terrific class this year, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. And where can fans find you online?
Under drbobgoldman.com, or they Google me. I'm #1 in the world under my name, so I'm pretty easy to find. And, you know, it's always a pleasure to be here. And Alan's great. He works so hard. And I've been putting on big medical conventions myself, which are much larger than this, but still, it's a lot of work. And he does really a great job. He's highly respected. And Alan's sort of like, you know, family. So I flew 26 hours to be here. And if I had to fly more, I'd still be here. Bullying, we're kicking it.